Welcome, everyone, to the Fandom Podcast Network special presentation of Time Warp 1984. This is part 4 of 40th Anniversary Movies and Pop Culture. In this episode of Time Warp, we're going to cover the year of pop culture, which included the movies, TV, music, and notable news and events of 1984. The 1984 movies and pop culture events are celebrating, as of this recording, 40th anniversary. And in this episode, we're going to cover all that pop culture in the month of April of 1984. I'm Kevin. I'm your co-host, but I'd like to introduce my fellow co-host here to this Time Warp. And of course, as always, I'd like to welcome my brother from another mother, Kyle Wagner. What's going on?
I don't know. I took a wrong turn at the Hudson and ended up the creek. Somebody told me about a highway to heaven. I don't know. I'm confused. It's season. It's time travel. I have no idea what even day of the week it is.
I know, right? So have you had a chance to catch up from anything from the previous episodes?
I not really, because I live at work right now, and yeah, that's kind of how it goes.
You've been a little bit busy. Lacee's going to join us here in just a second here, but I want to let everyone know, of course, here we are on Time Warp, the Fandom flashback show of the Fandom Podcast Network. And Kyle, it's been quite a road. This series of Time Warp has evolved, just like time in general. We've come a long way, and it's kind of fun doing this monthly now and targeting specifically these specific months.
Yes, it is, and I'm glad we're doing it this way because it gives us a little more time to dive in deeper to things.
Yeah,
and we were able to expand more and talk about more than just the movies. We can talk about the television and a lot more of the pop culture of this time frame.
Definitely. And it's interesting too, because there's the TV, there's the movies, obviously. Then we start kind of getting into the music and just some of the other things. There's a little bit of news events and stuff like that that's happening. So, but we did want to let people know, of course, we are discussing the movies of 1984. That's the main topic, as well as the television and the other pop culture. And we got some fun stuff we're going to be diving into, but we did want to let people know coming soon or just arrived regarding Time Warp stuff. Of course, I've been doing my Buffy deep dive, Kyle. I'm in season 6. Excuse me, I just finished season 6, and now I am going into season 7, and things have been pretty heavy with Dark Willow and all that kind of stuff. But we want to let the listeners know, and the people that are watching, that we did a wonderful Buffy retrospective last year of Time Warp. So if you're a big Buffy fan, make sure you check that out. But before we go any further, I need to welcome the queen of Movie Foo in her Movie Foo home, Lacee Adderhole. What's going on?
Got a lot to talk about today.
Yes, we do. Good to have you. How you doing? You doing all right?
I'm good. I just had to reboot everything, but I am back and I am focused.
So, what's interesting is I always kind of like to ask, and I checked with Kyle as well, is there anything that you caught up from the last, couple months or something that, you were thinking about, maybe I had brought up or Kyle had brought up that you didn't, watch or anything? Was there anything that reminds you?
Yes. I watched Splash again. I realized for some reason I did not have Splash in my collection.
Yeah.
We watched it after we talked last time. I was like, what? Why? No. So I rectified that terror. Also, it's not available on Blu-ray. It's just a DVD. So I
didn't look for it on Blu-ray, so that's interesting. Yeah.
I did, and it wasn't, and I'm very upset about it, and I'll be fine. But it did have a nice commentary.
Okay.
By Babalu and by the 4 guys. It's Ron Howard and then his director and producers. It was really good. Mm-hmm.
So did you end up getting the Captain Invincible? What were your thoughts on it? Did you watch it yet?
I do have it. I did get it. I have not watched it yet.
Don't worry about getting it now, but what did you think of it?
No, I haven't watched it yet. That's on my.
You haven't watched it yet. Okay.
Ones that I have to watch. I also got Tank, and I haven't watched that yet.
I just want to let people know that the return of Captain Invincible is the songs are written by the Rocky Horror guy, Richard O'Brien, and it is a funny musical. Think about think it Captain America versus Hancock / Rocky Horror style comedy.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun. So make sure you guys check that out. Kyle's gonna get back to us in a second here, but we're gonna go ahead and Lacey, I want to let you know I've been doing my Buffy rewatch. I finished
where are
season
you?
6. I finished season 6. I am a few episodes in season 7 right now.
Okay.
And what's really weird is I've forgotten a lot of stuff that happened. And boy, season 6 was dark. Dark Willow, otherwise known as Darth Rosenberg, compared to one of the 3 nerds. So that was kind of fun, but I did enjoy
And
that.
it's always crazy to know what what a crayon can do.
Yes.
You know.
Then we did start off this monthly attack here, so to speak, of the Time Warp podcast. And of course, part 1, Frankie Said Relax. Make sure you guys go check that out. We had Airwolf, we talked to Angel, Hot Dog, among other things. And then part 2 of February, we had Footloose, Blame It on Rio, Lassiter, Remington Steele, Webster, talked Duran Duran, and many others. And just recently in March, we talked Spinal Tap, as Lacey just mentioned, Splash, Romancing the Stone, Repo Man, Ice Pirates, and Police Academy. So that was definitely.
And I did find my copy of This Is Spinal Tap. I was devastated because I couldn't find it, but I did find it. So I'm good.
I hate that feeling when you're looking through your physical media, like, I know I've got it. I know I've got it. Did I put it under the, or did I put it under this, or So yeah, I know how you feel, definitely.
That's why I love the new app that I got. That CLZ app is fantastic.
Yeah, I've been thinking about getting that's the movie organizer app, right?
Yeah. It's really.
Is that the one that has you have to pay a subscription to it or something like that?
Yeah, it's $15 or $14.99 a year though. I mean, it really comes out to like $129 a month or something, $138 or something. And now they
as long as it's not monthly, because I hate doing the monthly stuff.
I think they just put out a yearly thing saying it was going to be $19.99. Like they're upping it by $5 for the year.
Starting when? Do you know?
April or June,
Gotcha.
something like that.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'm going to look into that because I need something to organize it than my old Excel spreadsheet. So there you go. All right, guys. But first, you know what? I think it's time to take a step back into 1984, back in time. Let's fuel up that DeLorean with a flux capacitor, slingshot around the sun aboard that captured Klingon bird of prey. Take a step into that blue police box or that phone booth. Step into that quantum leap accelerator, or my favorite, take a dip in that hot tub time machine as we time travel back to 1984, guys. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to, of course, look at, the movies, the pop culture, sports, politics, television of 1984. All right, 1984. Fry says, not sure if 1984 or Brave New World. I always like that meme. I thought that was funny. Back in 1984, of course, born in 84, we've been touching on those as well. Gasoline, $1.13. A Chevrolet Chevette was $5,000. I don't know if I'd want a Chevette. There's plenty of others I'd rather have. We'll get in, of course, in the movies and top 10 baby names: Michael, Jennifer, Christopher, Jessica, Matthew, Ashley, Joshua, Amanda, David, and Sarah. I know a lot of people with those names. It's funny
Jennifer,
how that stuff
right here.
popped up. Yeah. Jennifer, yep.
And my cousin Matthew.
Where's Kevin? Kevin's lame. No one likes the name Kevin, so there you go. We got some world news, of course. President Ronald Reagan still chugging away there with George W. Bush as vice president. In April, during an official news conference, President Ronald Reagan calls for chemical weapons to be internationally banned. And I had to look this up, Lacey. I don't know if you remember this or not. The video exists, and it's a little sad. April 15th, comedian Tommy Cooper dies on live TV. Cooper suffers a massive heart attack, and his fall backwards, grasping, is initially thought to be part of this comedic act. It was done live on, I don't know if it was BBC, but it was British television. And if you look back, he's a very tall man, very large man, very funny comedian. I know he did some service during the World War, and then he went into acting. And when you watch this, you're wondering like, wait, what's going on here? And then they realize what happened and they cut out. Do you remember hearing about this?
Yeah, I do. I remember hearing about that at the time. I don't know that. I feel like that they played the clip with with like a fuzz on it on the news, because they didn't actually show him again and again and again to the new. That's
no, they didn't. But you can find it on YouTube and you can see what actually happened. And it's kind of sad, but it's definitely one of those momentous things that's happened on television, specifically national television. So next we've got born in 1984, and we've got a few notable names here. Mandy Moore, singer, songwriter, actress, and fashion designer. And America Ferrera, who was, of course, just recently at the Oscars, celebrating Barbie. And Jillian Bell, comedian, actress, and screenwriter. I've become a big fan of hers, especially after I saw 22 Jump Street, where she plays the villain in that. She is hilarious. I love her.
She's awesome.
Great.
Absolutely hilarious.
She's great. Deaths in 1984. We got a few here. Sir Arthur Harris, a British air marshal. We also have Marvin Gaye. Of course, he passed away. One day before his 45th birthday, Marvin Gaye dies. The famous singer intervened in an altercation between his parents and is shot by his own father. That was big news. I remember that. Frank Church, American politician, passed away in April. Brian Haskin, American film and television director. Mark W. Clark, American general. Ansel Adams, famous American photographer. He passed away. He was born in 1902. Famous musician and big band guy, Count Basie, passed away. He was born in 1904. And Mae McAvoy, American actress. She was born in 1989. She passed away in April of 1984. All right. Next, we have some 1984 tech, Lacey. Things get pretty interesting here. I love this. I love going back into the tech here. First of all, we had the IBM 3480 cartridge. And just a reminder to the listeners, we have slides showing all this stuff. So if you haven't seen the YouTube, please check it out. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you very much. Hope you're enjoying these weird slides here of tech. This is a big deal. The memory and storage here announced in 1984 March, IBM's new 3480 cartridge tape system sought to replace the traditional reels of magnetic tape in the computer center with a 4-inch by 5-inch cartridge that held more information, 200 megabytes, and offered faster access to it. IBM withdrew the system in 1989, but the new format caught on with other computers makers who began making 3480 compatible storage systems for several years after that, offering increased storage capacity in the same physical format. Do you remember these at all, Lacey?
I remember wanting a PC Junior, but there was one computer in our house, and we all used the same computer. My dad had it was his work computer.
Well, I was just talking about the cartridge right next to it.
No, I don't have any recollection of that. We were not to use it without supervision.
You understood, yeah. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. So as you mentioned, though, the PC Junior got released here. It was marketed as a home computer, but too expensive and limited in performance to compete with many of the other machines in that market. Its cliche keyboard was so criticized for poor ergonomics. While the PC Junior sold poorly, the PC-AT sold in the millions. It offered an increased performance and storage capacity over the original IBM PC and sold for about $4,000. It also included more memory and accommodated highly density 1.2 megabyte 4 1/4 inch floppy disks. Now, what I love about this picture of this computer is this is the most iconic look of a home computer, to where I think they carried that over to where it was just used to simplify, like in tabs and stuff like that, or pictures. Like if you needed a home computer, this is what it looked like.
Yeah. And also now, just the size of it and the shape of it on my computer, it looks like a doll. It looks like in a doll's house. Just because it's so different these days. It's just so bizarre.
Definitely. Oh, that's great. I love that picture. It's great. All right. Next, we have some products that were introduced in 1984. We like to tease a little bit at a time. And we got two here that might be related depending on who you are. First of all, we had the Coco Chanel perfume. Coco is the woman's perfume by French fashion house Chanel, introduced in 1984. It was created by Chanel in-house perfumer Jacques Paulet. Not sure, or Polget. Maybe I'm mispronouncing that, so apologies. In 1991, French actress, model, and singer Vanessa Paradis starred in a commercial for the fragrance, covered in black feathers, portraying a bird swinging in a cage. The advert, entitled "L'Esprit de Chanel," the spirit of Chanel, was shot by Jean-Paul Gaultier. Yeah, that was. I saw so many freaking commercials of Coco Chanel. It was like everywhere. But the weird thing is, though, Lacey, I can't remember what it smells like, but like Poison, I remember. Dracar Noir, I remember, but this one I can't remember. Do you remember the smell on this one?
I do, and I mean, I smelled this probably before Dracar Noir burnt the inside of my nose, so I can't smell anything now. Because it was Dracar, and then Cool Water, and then Canoe and Chanel.
Yeah,
Canoe.
I forgot about Canoe. Yeah.
But yeah, Chanel is it's a nice light scent. But if you were a woman of a certain age and you were wearing it, normally it felt like you would see it a lot you'd smell it a lot at church.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Everything would be, and then you're just sitting there.
Definitely.
And it's the only thing you smell for the next 3 days.
This is true. All right. So the other product that was introduced is the Depend undergarments. Depend is a brand of absorbent disposable underwear and undergarments for people with urinary or fecal problems. It is a Kimberly-Clark brand and positions its products in an alternative to typical adult diapers. Depend is the dominant brand of disposable garments in the USA with a 49.4% share of the market. The aggressive marketing of this project has been credited to reducing the serious social stigma of this. And what's interesting about this is I remember I kind of giggled, Lacey, when this would come on, but the way that they did promote this was a big deal for people that have these issues. And I'm probably going to have to start wearing these in about 10 years. Who knows? But, the commercials were done tastefully, and usually it was an elderly person and stuff like that. But sometimes it happens to people that are younger as well. And I thought this was probably one of the most important inventions for people over the last, 30, 40 years.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that I've ever purchased them with the intent of giving them to someone to actually use on their body.
Right.
I know that for a long time, if you were trying to do a garden, like a raised bed garden, or a non-raised bed garden, you would put those down on the ground, and the base of them is plastic, so the weeds couldn't get up through it, but the absorbency held rain enough so you could put a layer of dirt over them and then grow your crops.
So check about it. It's like the Depends hack there. I like that. You got an alternate use for it.
Exactly. And if you're going to town, you could put it in your plant and fill it with water. And then,
right. That's cool. Interesting. Every time I think about Depends or adult diapers, I think of it was like in the last 5 years, there was that girl who I think she was like a former astronaut and she was driving across country and she wore these so she wouldn't have to stop at all.
She had some. They figured out that she had an imbalance or something, right? Like her.
Yeah. She was going to find her ex-boyfriend, and there was something weird going on there.
And it was something where something messed up with her medication. It wasn't that she stopped taking her medication. Something that she was taking that she was given had interacted wrong. So let's make sure that people pay attention to what your medications are doing to your body, guys.
But more importantly, the big news out of that was that she was wearing adult diapers. So yeah. All right, next, let's go ahead and have some fun here, guys. All right, Kyle's going to join us. He's just in the middle of something. He's busy doing taxi stuff, so he's in demand right now. He'll join us when he can, but he's going to miss the totally tubular 80s toys here. And I always love to kind of tease some of these. I don't think these might all been ones that he collected, so who knows. First, we had the Barbie Star Traveler. Basically, it looks like a minivan, it looks like a what you call it? Winnebago for the your Barbies here, made by Mattel, of course, with the purchase price of $39.99. Barbie's motorhome with a driver's cabin that features bucket seats and a CB radio. That's awesome. And then next we had the Cabbage Patch Kids pinups made by Coleco. They're about $9.99 each. The Cabbage Patch Kids pinups, excuse me, not peanuts, are adorable miniatures of the big kids. They have soft sculptured bodies and rooted yarn hair. Each comes with his or her own soft accessory and special scene with a fabric covered frame. You can stand them up or hang them on the wall. Doll and accessory fastened to the scene with the Velcro closure. So this is if you want your mini Cabbage Patch dolls, but you want to kind of like maybe put them on your wall or, on your desk or something, right, Lacey? That's what I'm getting from this.
You know what? It's funny because I know that my sister had a ton of Cabbage Patch dolls. I remember I had one, and then, whatever. I wasn't a doll person, but I feel like those were little though, like little,
yeah, they are.
like
I'm guessing about maybe 5 inches tall,
maybe. Yeah,
that's what I'm kind of guessing, at least from the pictures though. So yeah.
And
the last toy we're going to talk about is the Cat in the Hat rocker for toddlers here and infants. Prices at $24.99. The Dr. Seuss Cat in the Hat rocker is made of a brightly colored plastic with a cloth hat and bow tie. If those were made 10 years earlier, that's all wood and splinters would start to kick in. But it's really cute though. You got the little cat in the hat and you get to hold on to his hat. It's pretty cute. All right, let's get into one of my favorite segments here, guys. Let's get into the 1984 music news and music in general. All right. Now, Lacey, I found this interesting. I had no idea about this magazine. Okay. So April, the New York rock and roll magazine, Trouser Press folds after a decade. Trouser Press. Trouser is in like pants, yes. Publishing its 96th and final issue. Trouser Press was a rock and roll magazine started in 1974 in New York as a fanzine by editor and publisher Ira Robbins, fellow fan of The Who, David Schultz, and Karen Rose under the name Transoceanic Trouser Press, a reference to a song by the Bozo Dog Doodah Band, and an acronym play on the British TV shows Top of the Pops. Publication of the magazine ceased in 1984. The expired portion of the mail subscriptions was completed by Rolling Stone's sister publication, Record, which folded the next year, 1985. Trouser Press has continued to exist in various formats. Now, I bring this up, and I have these two pictures here because the one that's on the left is the first issue, and you can see a picture of The Who on there, and Rory Gallagher, The Who, King Crimson, and Beatle bootlegs. That's what's mentioned on there, and it's for 25 cents. Came out in March. And then the last one that dropped is the one that has the picture of Joey Ramone from the Ramones, the 10th anniversary, and of course turned out to be the final issue as well. Went from 74 to 84. I had no idea that this existed. Did you know about this magazine at all?
I don't think I knew about it at the time, but I know that I've seen it in, like vintage shops and stuff like that. And a friend of mine used to collect pinback buttons, those little tiny ones, the little half-inch ones. And I want to say there was a little page in the very back where you could kind of do ordering and stuff. Not like a comic book, but where they had like ads for. But I think that's the one that had the pinback ads for all the different tiny pinbacks you could get for your leather jacket. Yeah,
I think that's really cool. And the pins were a big deal and collectible. And now if you find some vintage ones, boy, they're not cheap. But yeah. And next that we have here is the songs of 1984. This is where we like to pick a little group and discuss them here. And the next group is songs number 75 down to 67. Starting with 75, we have Give It Up by Casey and the Sunshine Band, Dance Hall Days by Wang Chung, Cruel Summer by Bananarama, An Innocent Man by Billy Joel, They Don't Know Me by Tracy Ullman, Adult Education by Daryl Hall and John Oates, Breakdance by Irene Cara, and Come On Feel the Noise by Quiet Riot, and it was 67, Cover Me by Bruce Springsteen. I have an interesting kind of little trivia about one of these, but I wanted to check with you, Lacey. What are a couple of your favorites on this list?
The only two that I I could like place in my head right now are Innocent Man and Come On Feel the Noise. I don't think I could tell you I couldn't hum any one of the rest of them.
Earl, not Cruel Summer by Bananarama? Cruel Summer? No. Dance Hall Days by Dwayne Chung. God, that video was like on high rotation on MTV. I remember that.
Yeah.
Huh. But yeah, come on, Feel the Noise. Huge hit with Quiet Riot as they released their album the previous year in '83. Love that one. They Don't Know was Tracy Ullman. This is, of course, the famous Tracy Ullman of the Tracy Ullman Show, and comedian and actress. But she is probably more famous for introducing The Simpsons to America.
Yes.
We have her to thank for The Simpsons because The Simpsons short started on her sketch comedy show that started before The Simpsons came on Fox. She was one of the first early shows on Fox when it first came out. And what's interesting too is that this song that she did called They Don't Know, I looked it up. This was actually a cover of I can't remember the girl's name, but she had released this song on with a band or something like that in the UK. And she ended up re-recording it, and then it became a hit for her. And this is really, she's a one-hit wonder when it comes to song hits, as far as I remember, was Tracy Ullman. But Tracy Ullman, she introduced The Simpsons.
Let's not say one-hit wonder. Let's say that she's a Renaissance woman. She decided that she was going to see if she could sing. She could. It made a hit. She moved on to other things.
There you go. I like that better.
Next, she's like, I mean, it's crazy. She does literally nothing. She does like everything she tries. She's just instantly good at.
Her sketch TV show is still one of the funniest I've ever seen, and I would love to watch it again because she is a woman of many faces and talents, and she in a way she kind of reminded me like she was channeling the Carol Burnett type of aura of all the characters that she could play and how funny she was. I absolutely adore her, so she's great.
And she was so funny opposite Richard Lewis and what's his name in Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yeah,
the witch.
Yes. So
funny.
Oh god, yeah, she's great. All right, next we have 1984 in television, and this is another one of my favorite segments here. And I did a little more research. I did not know about this TV series called The Video Music Box. Out of New York, and the Video Music Box, the first TV program ever to feature hip-hop videos. Almost every popular American MC appeared on the show at one time or another. A little trivia too I have is the show aired on WNYC TV in New York City, which was the only television station in the United States owned by a city. In 1995, new mayor Rudy Giuliani sold the station to Dow Jones and Company. The station is now owned by Pax TV. Now, this is from Wikipedia. Video Music Box is a music television program, American one. The series is the first to feature hip-hop videos, primarily that was created in 1983 by Ralph McDaniels and Lionel C. Martin, who also served as the host. And it aired on this station from 84 to 1996. In 1996, the program moved to WNYE TV after WNYC TV was sold by the city to the private company. Many artists from the golden age of hip hop made their debuts on Video Music Box. Although it was considered a local show, its influence had been very widespread, and it has been considered a major factor in the growth of hip hop music and culture. And there's a really cool documentary that I've been meaning to get to here. I did watch a trailer for it. It's called You're Watching Video Music Box. It came out in 2021, and it was an hour and 32 minutes, and it's the untold story of the world's largest running video show, Video Music Box. Host Ralph McDaniels' vast footage of archive reveals the show's importance to numerous big-name musicians as well as kids that grew up. And it had other celebrities on there as well. And Mike Tyson was on there as well, Fat Joe, Diddy, Wendy Williams, JC, DMC. Yeah, do you remember the show at all?
No, I'm so bad at music. Every music thing that I learned fell out of my left ear while the movie stuff was going in through the right. I had to make room.
Yeah, I didn't know about this at all. We didn't have MTV. I only watched MTV at friends' houses, so that was my limited run for a while until I moved out of the house. But yeah, so there we go. All right, next we have Double Trouble. Double Trouble, NBC. And we have a great picture here. I love these old TV ads. Twice the laughs. One's an angel, the other is a devil. They're as different as identical twins can be. And this one, of course, was on NBC, 9:30 p.m. series premiere. A sitcom and antics between two real-life twins, Kate and Allison. Allison was always the serious, outgoing sister, while Kate was the more fun and laid back. Sitcom about these twins, of course, played by real-life twins, Liz and Jean Segal. Now, if that name sounds familiar, they are the younger sisters of Katie Segal, or of course, more famous from Married with Children and Sons of Anarchy. Allison was always a serious, outgoing sister, while Kate was much more fun and laid back. In the first season, the twins lived in Des Moines, Iowa, with their father, who ran a health club dance studio. In the second season, the twins headed to New York City to live with their Aunt Margot, who wrote children's books. Allison enrolls in design school, trying to win points from hard-to-impress Mr. Arachia, while Kate tries to break into acting. As I mentioned, the trivia that they are, of course, related to Katie Segal. Now, I want to ask you, first of all, Lacee, do you remember watching this?
I don't. I recognize them from Grease 2 as the twin cheerleaders, and I think they were the Doublemint twins, right? Weren't they?
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. So,
as far as my recollection goes, with these two lovely ladies.
Well, I watched this show back then. I'll be honest, I might have been crushing a little bit on them as well.
Cool.
And what's really funny is I could only find selected episodes on YouTube. So I went to YouTube. I watched the premiere episode, right? And this is what they're talking about, Des Moines, Iowa. But someone put on YouTube a collection of episodes that was recorded from their VCR, and it's so obvious.
Oh, wow.
And I guess they called it kind of a marathon because you can watch the first 2 episodes of season 2, and then because I think what they did was these episodes. I think there was a night where they showed like maybe 4 episodes at once, and he or she recorded it, including all of the original commercials.
Nice.
And I'm like, I don't want to watch commercials, but 80s commercials, yes, I do. And it was very funny because it was from a certain channel and network that would break in with some local news, like watch this or something and do that. But it was very interesting to see them move from or have like the New York ones. And this is where they're on their own. And one of them's trying to be the dancer. The other one's doing the other stuff. So it was very interesting. They're very entertaining. I don't know why it was canceled with low review share. I don't know why people weren't like grabbing onto this, but didn't last very long. Only lasted 2 seasons, but I really did enjoy this show.
Right on. Do you have a favorite throwback local commercial?
When it comes to local, my end, no, I don't. I just remember all the famous ones.
Gotcha.
Actually, hold on. No. There was one from Los Angeles, which is about a 2-hour drive from us. And Cal Worthington was a famous car dealership. Okay. And he had this jingle, go see Cal, go see Cal, go see Cal. And he was always like, he always have animals in his commercial. Like he might be riding an ox or something, or he might have like a cow with him or something, or he might have a tiger on the roof of a car. What about you? Did you have a local one that you were always kind of like,
we had the Men's Warehouse with Wolfman and Donna.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
They would talk about, men's suits for this and, whatever, don't forget your socks or whatever. But at the very end, he'd always say, ask for the Wolfman. And then when they passed it over, like when he started getting ready to retire, because I'm pretty sure it was father and daughter. So she would pop in and go, ask for Donna, ask for Donna.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah.
It would pop up from all sides of the screen, and it was hilarious. Yeah.
There was another one called Pete Ellis Dodge. And my family would sing to that thing because that Dodge dealership was near where Grandma lived. And we would and they would sing like where it was, like PL's Dodge, Long Beach Freeway, Firestone exit, Southgate. And my grandmother lived in Southgate, and then we would always end PLS Dodge, Long Beach Freeway, Firestone exit, Southgate at Grandma's house.
Awesome. I love it.
So Pete Ellis Dodge, if you're still in Southgate or whatever, hello, you just got a free plug here. So there you go. By the way, thank you for asking that because that brought back good memories.
And
that was
the
awesome.
Men's Warehouse is still up and running in Atlanta, Georgia. If you need a men's suit, they're still around. Ask for Don.
That's awesome. All right. So next was a show I had no idea that it existed from one of the most famous comedians of all time. And that is The Duck Factory, starring Jim Carrey. The comedic adventures of the employees of a hard luck animation company. Skip Tarkenton, who is Jim Carrey, is a young animator who just started with a low-budget animation company that produces The Dippy Duck Show. A new guy, Skip is often the brunt of office politics and has to deal with his own lack of confidence. And this stars Jim Carrey, Julie Payne, and Nancy Lane. And I got some quick trivia here. It was Jim Carrey's first lead role in a Hollywood production. The show had only ever been released on VHS. In 1995, 2 versions were released in the United States, one containing the first 3 episodes, the other in the last 3 episodes. Now, this is interesting because 1995, Lacey, they, I'm sure, are like trying to get on the Jim Carrey is now very famous because, of course, he went on to do Living Color, and then, of course, his movies hit big. They were trying to basically ride the coattails of his fame there. So, yeah. But it's funny here because another bit of trivia here is ironic. Given Jim Carrey's over-the-top persona on stage, that on the show and the movie Once Bitten, he had been given the straight man role while the wackiness abounds from characters around him. And you can find this on YouTube. I watched the first episode, and he is the straight man. He's not like the cracking up guy. And the movie Once Bitten is a similar thing where you're used to seeing him, a huge hit that he did with Living Color and the characters he had coming out of that. Have you seen The Duck Factory?
I haven't seen The Duck Factory, but when it comes to Jim Carrey, some of his early stuff before, the big 3,
right,
Ventura, Mask, and Liar Liar. Most of the stuff before that really was dramatic. He was in Doing Time on Maple Drive, where it's a teenage alcoholic thing.
Oh, wow.
And he was really good. I mean, he's got the dramatic chops too.
He does.
No, I have not seen.
Yeah, like Truman Show and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, definitely. No, interesting though. Jim Carrey did his first appearance on David Letterman's Late Night right after the show was canceled. After Carrey's wild act of impressions from Sammy Davis Jr. to Clint Eastwood, Letterman mentioned the show, and Carrey pretended to start crying and said, "I miss Jack Gilford's stories." The show initially aired at 9:30 on Thursday nights, directly after Cheers, and replaced Buffalo Bill on NBC's schedule. You would think with the Cheers lead on, it might last. He might have lasted a little bit longer, but no. I had no idea. And by the way, the first episode's interesting because he shows up. He's basically, he's got hardly anything with him. But the guy that hired him dies. And so he never really gets to meet him. And he ends up going to the funeral. And the big question is if this animation company is going to actually fold or not. And there's like a sister or an aunt or something that ends up taking over, but she's kind of curmudgeoning, and doesn't know. And so she kind of says, okay, well, prove it to me that this can make money. And so that's kind of the setup to the story. But the funny thing was that he got invited to do a eulogy at his funeral, not knowing the guy at all. But you could definitely feel that there was something special about Jim Carrey while doing that. But yeah, he played the straight man. He wasn't funny on that. So yeah. All right. Next, we have in syndication My Little Pony, half-hour animated television series that starts becoming a thing, and as you know, becomes huge with the toys, and is still showed today. Definitely. Now, I'm really sad about the next thing. One of my favorite shows ended, and that is Automan. Premiered on ABC television on December 15th, 1983, and ends in March of 1984. Did not last.
You got 9 episodes out?
Yeah. The computer-generated superhero and his human creator fight crime in the city. Creator Glenn A. Larson. My first time knowing about Glenn A. Larson, of course, was Battlestar Galactica, starring Desi Arnaz Jr., Chuck Wagner, Heather McNair, excuse me. Automan, of course, is the American superhero television series produced by Glenn A. Larson. It aired for 12 episodes, although 13 were made on ABC between 83 and 84. It emulates the visual stylistics of Walt Disney's live-action film Tron in the context of a superhero TV series. The series was later shown on reruns on the Sci-Fi Channel. I don't remember those reruns. Do you, Lacey?
Let me just tell you that until you said what you just said, I thought that this was a show about a man who turned into an auto. Like I thought that the car and the guy were the same thing. Like I thought it was kind of a manimal, you know.
No, it was a little thing called Cursor. It was Cursor that turned that would make this car up, or like a motorcycle, I think. And then I think there was Cursor could turn into a helicopter.
Okay.
But you would see the car going really fast and making left, right turns real quick and stuff like that. So yeah. But yeah, it says here, Automan follows the adventures of a police officer and computer programmer named Walter, who has created an artificially intelligent crime fighting program that generated a hologram played by Chuck Wagner, able to leave the computer world at night and fight crime. So yeah, man, great. I just love the show. I thought it was great. I love that car too. It looked cool, but it was basically a TV Tron ripoff. But you know, at that age, we didn't care.
It kind of looks like a Tron version of the car from the Wraith.
Yes, exactly.
It looks like it's the car from the Wraith with like just the outline from the Tron lights.
Maybe the Wraith stole the idea from.
I don't know.
We'll see. Anyway,
perhaps.
Next we had one of my favorite shows I used to watch. My parents loved it, and that is Mama's Family. Now, unfortunately, it got canceled during this month of April in 1984, but then returned in 1996. And of course, starred Vicki Lawrence, Beverly Archer, Ken Berry, Harvey Korman. And this is Mama's Family, originated with Thelma Mama Harper and her younger sister Fran living together in Mama's house. And this series is a spin-off, the reoccurring series sketch called The Family, featured, of course, on the Carol Burnett Show. That went from 1967 to 78. I love this show. Did you watch the show, Lacey?
Yes. Love Vicki Lawrence, love Tim Conway, like love everybody. They're so good. And how they can, don't get me wrong, they didn't always keep a straight face, but how they kept their straight faces as long as they did is beyond me.
Yeah, and agreed.
The Tim Conway thing about the elephants where they were joined at the nose. And
yes.
Yeah, you have to. It's absolutely hilarious. I'll send you the link if you want to put it underneath It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Kyle's back here. We'll get with him in just a second. And by the way, the last episode of Time Warp, we talked about the premiere of AKA Pablo that came on, but only lasted 6 episodes. When you think about the time, yes.
Okay.
Kyle, you missed Automan. Kyle is back, by the way.
Yeah, let me I apologize. A program's work is never done. I feel like Tron right now, but
or Cursor maybe from Automan.
Yeah, there we go. That's probably more accurate. Is Automan. Yes, the precursor to Tron. Definitely one of the more interesting shows in the history of television.
Wait. Wouldn't that be the post-cursor to Tron, since Tron came out first?
That's right. Yeah, See, I'm still time travel screwed up.
Your thoughts on Automan quickly, though. I know you liked Automan.
It was a fun show. It was capitalizing on those effects at the time. A cool car, but like every other 80s show, let's just throw it out there, see what sticks, and then it's gone. It's gone just as quickly as it came.
I threw up some trivia, Kyle, that this this aired later on the Sci-Fi Channel for a short time. Do you remember this? Because I don't.
Yeah, when the Sci-Fi Network first started, they were grabbing anything and anything anything they could to put on for content, and they were the Automan and the Incredible Hulk, a lot of cheesy science fiction.
Were you a Mama's Family fan, Kyle? We were just talking about Mama's Family.
Yeah, you know what? Mama's Family is one of those shows you always stumble across it and you end up watching it.
Yeah.
That's how that was in the 80s. It wasn't necessarily, oh, I'm making time to watch Mama's Family, but you always ended up, oh, here's Mama's Family, especially once it started hitting some of the cable channels and
Our
syndication.
family was big Carol Burnett fans, so
Mhm.
we latched onto it, but we didn't stick with Mama's Family. I think for us, the novelty kind of wore off after a few seasons, and then we just kind of stopped watching it. So yeah. All right. Next, another canceled show here. Blue Thunder ended its short run, the TV series, of course, with Dana Carvey, of course, in there, Bubba Smith. That ended. But guys, I just watched the first episode of this brief show called Masquerade that came out. Did not last long. It also premiered on ABC in December 15th, 1983. So Masquerade and Automan premiered on the same date in the same night, and both got canceled on the same month, which I thought was funny. So I watched this first episode literally like an hour ago. I wanted to see what it was about.
Is that Joe
And
Piscopo?
no, that is Greg Evigan and
Kirstie Alley.
Kirstie Alley, and Rod Taylor. And basically, it's actually kind of an interesting concept there. It's considered an amalgamation of Mission Impossible and Love Boat, but done in a tongue-in-cheek series. And basically what they do is they recruit regular people to help them with their current situation, but to help them like do some jobs and spying and stuff like that to take down basically some bad guys or some evildoers. And they might and then there's like a B plot of them trying to help someone else and them help, but they basically want them to help them because they want regular people to kind of either spy for them because they won't be noticed or something like that. That's kind of the gist of this show. And the opening theme song's really, really cool, but very cheesy. But what's interesting, the first episode, let me tell you what the first episode had. First of all, it has Dodger and Padres legend Steve Garvey playing himself. It has the actor who played Nakatomi from Die Hard, Mr. Nakatomi.
Okay.
He plays the villain, and it has freaking ninjas in it.
Kevin, I want to ask you a question about, because with Kirstie Alley here. At this time, is Kirstie Alley one of the most underrated, beautiful women in Hollywood?
I would agree because she was great in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. But what the thing that jumped out at me, Kyle, that I really miss about Kirstie Alley, especially during Cheers, because I was a Kirstie Alley over Shelley Long fan. I liked her character in Cheers more. But it was her voice. She just had this sexy voice. I just loved her voice. Before we get past Masquerade, though, Kyle, Lacee, have you seen Masquerade?
No, I haven't. It looks like a combination of Scarecrow and Mrs. King and the A-Team.
A little bit, yes, but done with an espionage theme. And what's funny too is like there's like this cover that they have with like with stuff that's going on, and that they pretend to go to other places. The first episode takes place in Hawaii, but you can tell it was filmed in Southern California. I like the concept, and it was a young Greg Evigan as well before he goes on to My Two Dads and Tech War. Am I getting the right actor there, Kyle?
Yeah. Greg Evigan also too, maybe the king of failed 80s television.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes. Yeah. Anyway,
and I like Greg Evigan, but yeah.
You can go onto YouTube. You can watch the first episode. You can also just watch the intro. It's great for a kick. Make sure you check it out. I loved it. The next series we watch religiously in our household, and that is That's Incredible. It ended its run, started in 1980. American reality TV show that aired on ABC Network from 80 to 84 in tradition of You Asked For It, Ripley's Believe It or Not, and Real People. It featured real people performing stunts and reenactments of alleged paranormal events. The show also often featured people with unusual talents, such as speed talker John Moshida Jr., who made his first national television appearance on the show. He was the guy that did all those commercials and would talk really, really fast. You remember that guy?
The Micro Machine commercials.
Yes. There you go.
I can top something even with that.
Yes.
He was the voice of one of the Autobots in Transformers the movie.
Cool.
Which one?
The
remember?
character's name was Blur.
Figures. Now, what's interesting about watching this show is sometimes it would get a little cringeworthy because, you know, you're basically asking these people to do these stunts, and sometimes it wouldn't always go correctly. And in the trivia I found here, despite accusations of being sadistic, this series was a huge success and influenced many entertainers. And the hosts were Fran Tarkenton, former football player, John Davidson, and Kathy Lee Crosby.
And their hair.
Yeah.
Yes, and their hair. By the way, in 1980, hold on a sec, Kyle. 1982, Tiger Woods appeared on the show at the age of 5, displaying his ability to putt a golf ball into a hole from different areas.
The great thing about That's Incredible is it didn't fall into the trap of every week was something similar. They found different things all the time.
Yeah.
But they would also do some really kind of cool human interest things with it as well. And that's kind of what made it a little different from a lot of the other shows that were trying to do that. Plus, I mean, you know, it was just
I got a little thing here. It says the number of stunts performed were dangerous, including juggling knives, staying inside a small box for hours, and one involving a man supposedly catching a bullet between his teeth. The dangerous nature of these stunts eventually prompted producers to augment the footage with the caption, "Do not try this yourself." And Steve Baker, also known as Mr. Escape, was frequently featured on the show. So there you go. That's incredible.
I'm going to say this. That's Incredible was the early Mythbusters.
Early Mythbusters. I like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. All right. We like to highlight the top rated shows of 1984. We do 3 at a time. And the first one we're going to talk about is Highway to Heaven. A probationary angel sent back to Earth teams with an ex-cop to help people, starring Michael Landon, Victor French, and James Turrush. I have never seen one episode of this series. Part of that reason is, whatever it was, this show just did not appeal to Kevin at age of whatever I was, 13 at the time. I'm sorry, guys, but this was the your parents watch or your grandparents watch show. Lacey?
Yeah. No. I mean, I know that I know the one thing I know about this show is that I kept mixing it up with The Incredible Hulk, because I would come in always at the very end and it would always have Michael Landon's character walking away down the lonely highway with like a knapsack. And I'd be like, oh man, did I miss The Incredible Hulk? And they'd be like, no, you didn't.
Kyle, what about you?
I remember watching the premiere movie because my parents watched it. But what I remember thinking back on this, how big a deal this show was getting hyped because it was Michael Landon. And I mean, coming off Little House on the Prairie, Michael Landon was a huge star at this point. And this show was actually a pretty big deal for the network. And I think it was NBC who did
this. By the way, just to put things in perspective, out of the top 30 lists, this was number 19 with 17.7 million viewers.
Didn't this spawn Touched by an Angel? Was that something where they had was it a spin-off or did it?
No idea.
I think Touched by an Angel came way after this.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So next, we've already touched on this. We won't spend much time on it, but Night Court, of course, was cruising along. Kyle, we've already talked about this in the last episode.
Jam. This is my jam right here.
You know, and obviously this became an instant hit and hit huge ratings at the time. This was what was it, number 20, with a little over 17 million people here, and went on for, I think, was it 8 seasons? So yeah, huge hit. Kyle, sorry.
Real quick on Night Court. Did not find its full stride until season 3 when they finally solidified the cast.
Yeah.
The sad part is only 2 members of that cast are still alive.
Also, in the reboot, Brent Spiner has just reprised his role.
Yes, he did.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
And I'm blanking on his wife's name in the show. The actress. They just said that he just said that he's available for anytime they need him. Because
I need to go back and watch that episode alone. Where's that streaming on? The new Night Court, by the way.
Peacock.
I just happened to Peacock. I just subscribed to Peacock, so I have to check that
I
out.
just want to say this too. John Larroquette's Dan Fielding, one of the greatest characters of the 80s.
I would agree.
Agreed.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Definitely. All right. Next, we have the ABC Sunday Night Movie, brought in a little over 17 million people. This was a huge deal. The ABC Sunday Night Movie that aired on Sunday nights first for a brief time in 1962 under the title Hollywood Special, although Time Magazine lists this version as a Sunday night movie, supposedly replaced an open time slot for the TV show Bus Stop, which was canceled after March 1962. It began airing regularly under its more commonly known title from the late 1964 to 1998 on ABC. The ABC Sunday Night Movie of the Week through as of 2011-2012 television season, the only films in this time slot that were aired under the Hallmark Hall of Fame banner. That's interesting. Which transferred to ABC in that season. However, in 2014, the Hallmark Hall of Fame moved exclusively to cable on the Hallmark Channel. As a result of this, the Sunday Night Movie is now exclusively regulated to two special holiday movies: The Sound of Music every holiday season and The 10 Commandments every Easter. Guys, Sunday Night Movie was such a big deal for those of us that weren't watching football. Big deal still is. It was a big family event. Kyle, what about for you?
Oh, I mean, not so much a family event, but it was a big deal. And it's interesting when you go back because ABC had theirs, NBC had one for a while. CBS even did a Sunday night movie, and then they all kind of fell by the wayside a little bit when this thing called The Wonderful World of Disney started airing on Sunday nights.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Lacey, was this a thing for your family? ABC Sunday Night Movie?
Not until Disney. Not until Wonderful World of Disney.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. All right, guys. Let's get into the movie segment. This is the Fandom Podcast Network. There's Lacey showing up her, I love it, showing her Blu-rays and DVDs. That makes me happy. This is, of course, Time Warp 8, 1984, Part 4, the 40th anniversary of movies and pop culture. And we are discussing April. But we do have, of course, I believe some movie news. And this is interesting, guys. I remember this. April 6th, TriStar Pictures, a joint venture of Columbia Pictures, HBO, and CBS, releases its first film, Where the Boys Are, 84. We'll be touching on that in a little bit. But first, we have some 1984 celebrity film debuts. And we have Richard Edson from Stranger Than Paradise, Troy Evans in Rhinestone, Rupert Everett from Another Country, Sherilyn Fenn in The Wildlife, and Colin Firth, Another Country. Makes us feel kind of old. Lacey.
And Dean Cain in The Stone Boy.
That might come up in another one, but yes, Dean Cain. Yes, Dean Cain. All right. Now, we do have a couple of films in the cutting room floor that we'll just briefly mention when we get there. Some that didn't quite make the main movie discussion. But the first film, and I was very interested in seeing this for the first time, and Lacey and I, what do we have? I have my copy, you have yours, so you have you have the Blu-ray version. Yeah. You have the better copy, damn it. And that, of course, is Rick Springfield in Hard to Hold.
Wait, Kevin, why because of the screen layout do I feel like the digital guy sandwiched between the physical?
Let's hold up I'm holding up the DVD copy. She's holding up the Blu-ray copy, which I think has the better cover, if you ask me. I love this poster, this sultry picture here, of course. This, of course, is famous for Rick Springfield here, the famous rock, and it's about a famous rock star that falls in love with a child psychologist who has ears only for the classics, like classical music, and has never heard of him. Directed by Larry Pierce, starring, of course, Rick Springfield, Janet Eiber, Patty Henson, and Bill Mumy. Kyle, before we discuss this, do we have some trivia?
I have a couple of interesting pieces of trivia here. This movie was not the film debut of Rick Springfield, who had previously portrayed Lieutenant Zack in the feature film of Battlestar Galactica. This was despite the fact that film posters for the movie boasted slogans like Rick Springfield in his motion picture debut. two others real quick that I find very interesting. Rick Springfield turned down a role in the right stuff to take this movie because he was going to be the leading man in this one. And of course, you know, he is a rock star. So if he's going to be in the movie, he's got to debut with some new songs in there, including one of his more well-known songs, Love Somebody, which was written while filming at the Fairmount Hotel.
I think he recorded 7 songs for this movie.
Yeah, seven altogether. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. And Lacey, first of all, do me a favor, hold up your Blu-ray again for those of us watching the video here. So yeah, I wanted to see this film, so I bought this one. I should have gotten the Blu-ray, but you turned me on to another film of his because I was impressed with his leading man and the story of this that I haven't watched it yet, but I got Rick Springfield, Nick Knight. Yeah, it says it's taken 200 years, but this cop's past is about to catch up with him. I'm guess he's playing some type of immortal. So that's all I know.
Ooh, okay. And then just to be clear, there was a 3-season TV show called Forever Night that was the spin-off. Yeah.
Kyle.
So let me ask you guys this, because talking about Rick Springfield, he got to this point, but he never boomed like he really should have, didn't he? Am I wrong feeling that way?
You're absolutely right. And after watching this movie, first of all, he is very charming in this film. And I love that he meets this woman. He actually ends up like hitting her car. and that's played by Janet Eiber. And I'm not really familiar with a lot of her work, but the chemistry between these two was fantastic. And he's basically pursuing her. And in the meantime, Patty Henson, who is like part of the band Entourage, they have a history. And Patty Henson is more famous for marrying, the guitarist for Rolling Stone. Everyone thinks he should be dead by now.
Jimmy Page?
No.
What?
No.
Wait, for
Keith Richards.
Keith Richards, and they're still together. And by the way, Bill Mummy from, was it Lost in Space, fam? He plays the keyboardist in his band. There's a lot of music going on. There's a lot of concert stuff going on. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. Lacey, your thoughts on Hard to Hold?
It was a good, solid effort. It was entertaining. It was very interesting. I will say that if you want a little bit more like information, there is a commentary on this that is by a film historian. So there's a little bit more kind of background about Rick Springfield and a little bit more about, everybody who's in it. It's an interesting commentary.
We know he went on to soap operas after this and was very successful, but
then he did Blame It on the Night, which was I thought it was good. I don't know.
I just feel there was a big missed opportunity. I don't know if he wasn't picking the right parts or if he wasn't offered the right parts, but I felt that with him both being a singer and a good actor, I thought he could have done some more movie roles. Kyle, you wanted to finish your thought on that?
Yeah, it was just like he could never find that role that just catapulted him from being just a rock star to this. Yes, they were saying elsewhere there was all this other thing, but he never got that one role. I don't know if it was because of his acting ability or he just didn't choose the right scripts. His agent let him down.
Or he was always touring. He didn't have time.
Yeah,
that too. That too. But yeah, it just felt like if he would have gotten that one thing, he would have been one of those just like Prince with Purple Rain or something like that. He should have had that iconic rock star film, and he never really got it.
I thought he was so charming in this. I thought he was great. And I love the music side of this. So Lacey, any final comments on Hard to Hold?
Yeah, I mean, just Rick Springfield in general, he might not have done like that one thing that catapulted him into mega stardom or whatever, but I mean, even 3 or 4 years ago, he was in the second to last season, I think, of Supernatural. He played Lucifer, and he was good. Like, and I mean, he's just he's good at what he does, and he takes his time.
Before we move on to the next film, I just want to mention I love reading from the posters because they always had some type of paragraph that says he's a rock star on a roll. She's into more traditional music. He wants the spotlight. She wants the quiet life. He lives for freedom and excitement. She wants a commitment. They're as different as two people could be and as much in love. I love
Wait,
that stuff.
Kevin, if this movie comes out in 92, is it Mark Wahlberg in that role?
Possibly. I see what you did there. Nice. All right, guys. Next, we have Moscow on the Hudson. And I'm just going to read from the poster here. America is sometimes a strange place, even for Americans, let alone for Vladimir Ivanov, a Russian defector with a black roommate, a Cuban lawyer, and an Italian girlfriend who's learning to live with the Big Macs, cable TV, hard rock, softcore, unemployment, and a whole new wonderful world for him. Freedom. That's on top of the poster, just so you know, guys. Of course, starring Robin Williams, co-starring Maria Conchita Alonso. A Russian saxophonist visiting New York with a circus troupe suddenly decides to defect from the USSR during a shopping trip to a department store, but he finds adjusting to American life a little more difficult than imagined. Kyle, hit us up with some trivia.
Yeah, there's a couple interesting pieces of trivia here that, again, just reiterate how special Robin Williams was. In preparation for the role for about a year, lead actor Robin Williams studied Soviet customs and learned the Russian language. Reportedly, he spent 5 hours a day learning Russian and had learned to speak it well within a month. By the time of principal photography, Williams was at a proficiency level where he could carry out a conversation. Williams' teacher was a Russian actor called David. But not only was he committed to the Russian part of it, Robin Williams spent months learning to play the saxophone, and according to his music tutor, achieved a level of proficiency that would normally take a student 2 years.
Wow. Fascinating. All right, Kyle, your thoughts on Moscow on the Hudson?
So this movie for me, I think I've seen it maybe once, twice in my life. It falls under this category of, okay, they're making a bunch of films like this. And that was the Russian coming to America and being out of place. After we had Yakov Smirnov, we had this, we had a lot of.
You had Red Heat.
Yeah, I mean, this was a trope that Hollywood drove into.
It's because it was the Cold War and they were the enemy.
I know, but Hollywood. So it was one of those things. Hollywood got it. And
hold on, White Knights. We forgot about White Knights as well.
Oh, yep, Gregory Hines. Come on, man. But I mean, it was
Mikhail
one of those
Baryshnikov.
It was just one of those tropes that, eventually you're just like, okay, we get the point. Can we just have boxing matches with big Russians and big Italian stallions?
Lacey, your thoughts on Moscow on the Hudson?
It's really nice to see Robin Williams in one of his more dramatic roles. This is not a comedy. There's very little humor in it. It's very not for nothing, but it's pretty depressing as a general statement about the film. But you know, he's really good. He was so good at what he did. And you know, it's crazy because you talk about, like we talked about Jim Carrey earlier. I think the ones who are such good comedians, they have to, like, that comic timing doesn't come from comedy. It comes from the drama. It comes from the dramatics. And you know, Williams was Superman, Christopher Reeve's roommate at Juilliard. So I'm sure that, I mean, just, I don't know.
Okay. So
really good.
I had never seen this film before, and I was kind of looking for it. I actually found, let me go ahead and show the picture here, guys. I actually found a double feature of Jacob the Liar and Moscow on the Hudson. You got the DVD itself? Good. Okay.
Just
gotcha.
the single. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have a hot take, guys.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan. Not a big fan of Robin Williams. It's not that I don't like him. I'm just not a fan of the movies he's in. And I don't find his movies rewatchable, which is an interesting thing. And I don't know, I prefer his comedy, like Good Morning Vietnam and Jumanji are probably the ones that I like the most. And I only own one of those, and that's Jumanji. But I don't know what it is about Robin Williams. I always was really uncomfortable watching him do interview shows because he was just like moving around and thrusting and doing all this stuff. And I did watch some of his stand-up, which I found entertaining. But as an actor and as a serious actor, I just can't. Kyle knows this phrase, where if you're a fan of an actor and from a podcast that we like, did you buy season tickets to this person and did you go to see all their films?
Mhm.
Not for me with Robin Williams. Kyle?
I actually have a thought about this with Robin Williams because I personally I love Robin Williams. Good Morning Vietnam is a classic to me, but I can also understand where you're coming from with Robin Williams because Robin Williams is always so filled with such kinetic energy when he
Yeah.
acts, and when he plays serious, you can feel it like he's trying to bottle it up and he just wants to come out and explode. And so it's that, and if you really go back and look at Robin Williams' career, he makes a lot of very interesting movie role choices. It's not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things on there. Like I said, I'm a fan, but there's definitely where you could see where the movie.
I felt
role
like he
choices
stopped doing comedies, which I felt hurt my bludgeoning is not the right word, struggling fandom of his. I wanted to see more of that. But then he took this whole serious turn, and I know he got an Oscar for Good Will Hunting, which I still have not seen all the way through it, to be honest with you guys. And it's just, I don't know. Lacey, what is your thoughts on Moscow on the Hudson?
Well, when it comes to Robin, well, I already said that I loved it. I loved his performance. It's not.
Basically what I meant to say was his career in general.
Sure. Okay.
That's the question.
My little app here, I've got like 30 Robin Williams movies. Just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to film. You love him.
Yeah, I do. When it comes to it, Aladdin, The Birdcage, probably one of the best American remakes of a foreign film that I've ever seen.
Yeah. I didn't mention Aladdin because it's that is an animated film, and I haven't watched it in a long time, but of course he steals that movie with his character. So yeah.
And Dead Poet Society, the nice thing about Robin Williams is that he can do comedy, and he can do like the big huge comedy, but he can also do straight man that has a few like fun zingers. Like Dead Poet Society is like, I still can't watch that yet.
Watch what?
Dead Poet Society. Since Robin Williams passed away, I still can't watch. I still haven't been able
It's interesting you say that because I keep sharing this meme every year of all these 80s films. Have you seen them all? Mm-hmm. And it's like 30 films or 40 films. Mm-hmm. And the one I have not seen is Dead Poet Society. And it's now haunting me. And people are like, you haven't seen Dead Poet Society? I'll get around to it. I do want to see it because, from what I heard, it's good. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. It's tough to watch since we've lost him.
If you have a teacher that you like, if you have a teacher that really made a difference in your life, this is a movie about that. Right. It's about that one teacher who just cared so much.
All right. Next film we have is a comedy called Up the Creek. All right. You got your Blu-ray there.
I'm trying to. Got my lights.
I've got the DVD.
Right on.
There we go. Okay, Up the Creek did well, I guess. In its run on the theaters, it made $11 million, and it features the music of Cheap Trick. And by the way, I'm reading the poster here. Cheap Trick, the Beach Boys, Heart, Shooting Star, Randy Bishop, Ian Hunter, Danny Spanos, and Kick Axe, which is a hair metal band, which I like. And the poster says, "Who says a bunch of boobs can't win a race?" Starring Tim Matheson, Jennifer Runyon, and Stephen Furst. Yes, that's Stephen Furst from Babylon 5. Bob McGraw is in his 12th year of college, goofing his way through life until he has to win a river race with 3 college buddies. Kyle, hit us up with some trivia for Up the Creek.
You want some trivia for Up the Creek? I don't know. It might send you up the creek, but this is interesting. Michael Keaton was originally approached to play Bob McGraw. The role later was cast with Steve Guttenberg, who over the course of a weekend instead decided to go onto Police Academy. Wise career choice. Leaving the production without a lead actor. In the end, the lead male part was cast with actor Tim Matheson from National Lampoon's Animal House. Tim Matheson, who at this time was, okay, we have a low budget, but we need a decent looking leading actor. Let's get Tim Matheson. Many film critics and reviewers in reviewing the movie said that the dog performer Jake, who played Chuck the Wonder Dog, provided the best acting and performance in the picture.
I'm gonna throw in one more because I didn't realize I'm a huge Cheap Trick fan, and the song "Up the Creek" is done by him. And one of the trivia was Cheap Trick rock band drummer Bun E. Carlos was once asked why their title song "Up the Creek" 1984 to this movie had never been included on a Cheap Trick compilation album. He said, "Because it sucks." And by the way, that dog in this movie steals the movie in all his scenes, and he did a lot of famous acting as dogs, and he was the famous dog in Down and Out in Beverly Hills. So yeah, give it up for Chuck the Wonder Dog. Kyle.
There is a thing in Hollywood where about once every 10 to 15 years, they get on a trip where they have to do like 3 or 4 river rafting movies. It kind of goes in a cycle. And what's funny is you have Up the Creek, and about the same time, it may have been a little sooner, I could be wrong, but maybe it was the first time I saw it on TV. There was a Charlie Brown special, Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown.
I saw that in the theaters, bro.
about going up a creek battle. So yeah, Hollywood has this secular fascination because there was a time when Seth Green had one without a paddle.
Without a paddle.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's something that is a thing Hollywood revisits.
Lacey, your thoughts on Up the Creek?
Well, okay. First of all, I mean, it's kind of in that same vein of Midnight Madness and all the fun, race movies and all that kind of stuff. Kind of felt like, it's an early rat race or, that kind of thing. And it also, it was I think the second film in the series of films that Stephen First did with Tim Matheson, because they became such good friends on Animal House. Yeah. So when you said yes, that Stephen First from what did you say, Battlestar Galactica? I was in my head. You were about to say
Babylon 5.
Okay, in my head you're about to say yes, that from Animal House, because because they were both from Animal House. Yeah, awesome, fun, hilarious. Yes,
it is. I'd never seen this movie before I got this DVD I have in my hand. But Lacey became a victim.
Oh no!
Bought the DVD, opened it up. The printing on the DVD looks a little sus, right? Turn around. There's that blue tint. There is a fake. But I'm not going to send it back. I actually like this movie. I got it cheap, so I'm going to take it and keep it. But I thoroughly enjoyed this film. What's interesting is it has the actress that plays Betty Childs in, of course, one of my favorite comedies of all time, and that is Revenge of the Nerds, which we talked about in the previous episode. So yeah, it's got some familiar faces there. I just love the whole idea of this. This guy was like the first Van Wilder, so to speak. I felt like in college, and the guy, the actor that played the guy that ran the house in Magnum PI, Higgins. The actor that played Higgins is the one that was the head of the school and saying, look, if you win this freaking race, I'm going to go ahead and just pass you guys. Right. And a lot of shenanigans. There's of course the evil jocks, and they have to deal with the evil jocks, which I love evil jocks as villains in 80s films. Then you have like the ROTC, like, guys that are in the army, and then you have all the girls in there and they have to kind of join forces. It's hilarious. I thought this movie was funny. I love the soundtrack. I thought it was great. So yeah.
Was this one of the first movies that was Jennifer Runyon, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It was one of her first films too, I think.
Don't know for sure, but she was great in this. I thought she was great. Yeah. Just good ensemble cast. And I thought Tim Matheson was great.
Tim Matheson is always charming. I mean, even now he's on Virgin River and he's like 68 years old and I'm still
one of my wife's favorite shows, and I've actually watched the first couple of seasons of it, so I know what it is.
And he was great in Heart of Dixie as like the stodgy doctor.
Yeah, he's great. I love him. The next is another sex comedy called Where the Boys Are, 84, made about $10 million. And I love the poster here. Has the 4 lead girls holding up a guy. And it says, when girls want a vacation filled with fun, sun, and romance, they go to Fort Lauderdale, where the boys are 84, where all your dreams come true. 4 college co-eds travel to Fort Lauderdale for their Easter week of spring break and become involved in a series of adventures and misadventures. Directed by Hy Averback, written by Lisa Hartman, also co-starring Lisa Hartman. Lorna Luft, actually, I might have that wrong here. Co-starring Lorna Luft, starring Lisa Hartman, Wendy Shaw, Christopher McDonald, Russell Todd, Howard McGillen, and Alana Stewart. Those starring, not written by. Kyle, hit us up with some trivia.
Producer Alan Carr insisted that the film was inspired by Where the Boys Are from 1960 and was not a remake or sequel to the earlier film. The 84 in the film's title appears everywhere but in the actual movie. The opening title simply read Where the Boys Are. And finally, Alana Stewart is the ex-wife of George Hamilton, the top-billed male star of Where the Boys Are from 1960.
Funny. Guys, I thought this movie was fun. It was nice to see a spring break type movie with all chicks doing their thing and I really liked watching the scenes between them. They were, I love how they do the road trip down there in the convertible car. They pick up the cool hitchhiker guy who they end up hanging out with and having some adventures and some romantic liaisons with. I thought this was just a fun film, and seeing it from the girl side, the fun adventure kind of sex comedy from that aspect. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the girls bonded well. Lacey, what did you think of this movie?
I remember seeing it. I don't think I saw it when it first came out because I was 11. I feel like I saw it on maybe like Showtime or HBO a few years later or something like that. I tried to actually find it again so that I could watch it on Blu-ray or DVD before this, and it was like 180 or something.
Yeah, it's hard to find on physical copy. Yeah. I ended up streaming it, I think, on YouTube.
Okay.
It's somewhere on YouTube or Tubi. I found it, but I think I went to YouTube first. I was able to watch the whole movie. Again, typical hour and 30 minutes, easy watch. Yeah.
So. Gotcha. Right on.
Kyle, have you seen Where the Boys Are at all? Do you remember this?
I don't remember this, but there's a couple interesting thoughts here because talk about time passing. Fort Lauderdale is not the spring break destination it was in the 80s. The demographic has changed slightly.
This is true. Yeah.
Lisa Hartman, if I'm remembering correctly, this is the same Lisa Hartman who went on to be a regular on Entertainment Tonight, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, really cutie in this. And Christopher McDonald, seeing a young Christopher McDonald in this was good too. I thought it was kind of fun. So yeah. Okay, next we have on April 13th of 84, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, the last ever Friday the 13th movie of all wrong. Now, we're not huge horror fans or aficionados on this, but my wife is, and so I am slowly getting indoctrinated into certain aspects of this, and she's a fan of Friday the 13th, the second one and the third one, not necessarily the first one. She told me she was a fan of this one, the fourth one. And I ended up watching it. Why, guys? Well, because my wife kind of suggested it. And
your wife threatened you to watch it.
I didn't say that, but yes. But I found this collection at one of my local stores that I get laser discs at, and it's the Friday the 13th 4-movie collection. Now, I actually was a fan of the third film because the third film is famous for two reasons. First of all, the third film came out in 3D, but more famous that is when Jason finally dons the famous hockey mask. And what I liked about it, and I ended up saving, I have that on DVD, and it has those cool like red and blue 3D glasses. You can watch the 3D version, and the 3D had some great 3D effects, especially death scenes. And I'm always a fan of really good death scenes in movies. And this 4-movie collection also includes the 3D glasses for the third film. But I like this sequel for a couple of reasons, and it's the only 2 movies that are actually take place right after the other. So at the end of season 3, after the end of the third film, there's this big fight scene in a big barn, right? And this is where Jason apparently gets killed, right? And at the beginning of this film, where of Jason, the final chapter, it takes place literally right where the other one picks off, which is kind of cool. And it shows a couple of scenes from the previous film. They, of course, take him to the morgue, and of course, he comes back to life, blah, blah, blah. He wreaks havoc. what I found interesting about this film was that the guy that plays Jason only played Jason once in this film. And he wasn't happy with it, I guess, or whatever. But then like fans kind of gravitated towards him. Then he started doing convention appearances. Unfortunately, he passed away in the last several years. But I thought he was really good as a killer in this. And this film, if this matters to you, this film has some really good death scenes and lots of nudity. Also by two twins, not the Doublemint twins, but two other twins. Starring Eric Anderson, Judy Aronson, Peter Barton, Corey Feldman, which I'm going to talk about in a second, Crispin Glover, and as I mentioned, Judy Aronson. And by the way, Kyle, Judy Aronson is a 80s crush for me for a couple of reasons. And I didn't know she was in this film, but she was part of the two hot girls that the guys lusted after to try to impress in Weird Science. She was the brunette. But more famously, in my opinion, Kyle, her entertaining co-starring adventure in American Ninja 1. She was the one that Michael Dudikoff had to rescue. She was the army daughter's character, I guess. But she also bears a little more than I was expecting in this film, and I was happy to see. My teenage self came right back. And there was some very clever... Sorry?
Lacey's saying there's too much testosterone on this podcast.
Sorry, Lacey, but I have to mention these things.
Anything. The only Friday the 13th movie I own is the one that Jared Padalecki is in, because I straight up bought the season ticket to that man.
You know who actually steals this film though is Corey Feldman.
Corey Feldman.
Yeah.
This is right before he does Goonies, basically. And he kind of takes a turn in this, but he's crucial to the apparent death, of course, of Jason in this. And he takes an interesting turn in this. And I liked him. He was cool. He was crazy. He wasn't like a stupid kid in this. I liked. I thoroughly found this Thrasher flick a lot, very entertaining. The only other one I remember liking was, because it was just cheesy, was Freddy versus Jason, because all the horror fans really kind of gravitate toward this. But
wait. Kevin, first of all, we must be thankful for the durability of Jason Voorhees.
Yes.
Because if he wasn't that durable, we would have never gotten Friday the 13th Part 10, or Jason X, as I think they ended up calling it, where he was in space.
Oh.
He takes a freaking axe to the face in this, and they show it. How he comes back. This is when, this is when Jason starts to become supernatural. And that's when he starts, and they're like, you know what, we're going to go with the supernatural thing to this. But I got to tell you, thoroughly enjoyed it. Thought it was fun. And like I said, I'm not a big horror guy.
I went to
one other thing real quick, Kevin. 80s horror films. That falls under the category of there is no way they're doing the stuff that they did in 80s horror films in today's movies.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. Lacey, did you have a comment?
Yeah, that was filmed in Social Circle, Georgia, at a camp called Rutledge, and that's where I went to church camp for 8 years as a high school and college camp counselor. And so they had this thing called Bush Patrol, which was late night where the adults, the college kids, would hang out in the woods outside to make sure that the teenage campers weren't, going out in the middle of the night. And let me tell you, the number of times I'd hear that,
So basically, you were going to church camp where a serial killer was at. So yeah, I did want to mention
doc, everything. Yeah.
Before we move on, I just want to mention too, the actor who played Jason was 58 years old at the time. That was Ted White, is the oldest stuntman actor to portray Jason Voorhees. White, who died in October of 2022, was the longest lived cast member from that thing. He was 96 years old. So yeah, there you go. All right. This is where I'm going to jump to you here, Lacey, because I have not seen the next film, and that is Iceman, made just over $7 million in its initial theatrical run. And I'm going to read from the poster again. You're holding up the Blu-ray. I love that. I'm going to have you hold that up in a second after I read the poster here. He's 40,000 years old. Deep within the Arctic glacier, they found him, preserved by a miracle of nature, brought back to life by a miracle of science. Now, medical science wants to exploit him in the name of research. One man wants to stop them in the name of humanity, but they'll need more than a miracle to survive. They'll need a friend. Iceman, starring Timothy Hutton. Basically, a prehistoric Neanderthal man is found frozen in ice and is revived by an Arctic exploration team who then attempt to use him for their own scientific needs. Co-starring, of course, Timothy Hutton, Lindsay Krause, John Lone, David Strathern. I keep messing up his name. Strathern, and Danny Glover. Now, do me a favor, hold up your Blu-ray there, Lacey. I want to check this out here. There it is, Iceman. Yeah.
Mine only has the first paragraph you read. It doesn't have.
Okay. So they cut the paragraph down for the Blu-ray. That's funny. Kyle, give us some trivia, and Lacey, I want you to talk about your Blu-ray copy and your thoughts on the film.
Well, before I give trivia, I just have one thing to say. Brendan Fraser did it better.
I'm so glad I didn't take a sip of this, Kyle, because I would have spit up on the screen.
Okay, so this movie was part of a 1980 cycle of prehistoric man movies, and they ran the gambit in the early 80s throughout. The films included an Alter State, Caveman, Quest for Fire, Cave Girl, Luggage of the Gods, Tundra, Iceman, Ghost Warrior, The Clan of the Cave Bear, and Missing Link. The age of the Iceman in the film was 40,000 years. 7 years after this film was released, a real Iceman was discovered in the Otzal Alps in 1901, named O.C. the Iceman. The real life Iceman.
Just real quick, you said 1991, right?
Yeah.
1991. Okay, sorry. Okay.
The real life Iceman had pollen found in his stomach, just like the Iceman in this film.
Wow, interesting. Jeez. Kyle, have you seen this film?
I have not seen this film, and the other guy who did the Frozen in the Ice better, he was a Star Spangled Man with a Plan. Chris Evans, Captain America.
Lacey, I think you're probably the only one that's seen this film between the three of us. So give us your thoughts on your Blu-ray copy and this film.
Okay, I don't know how the Academy overlooked John Lone's portrayal of the Iceman.
He actually played the Iceman.
Yeah, John Lone.
Oh, wow.
He's an Asian actor. He grew up studying at the age of like 7. He was shipped off to the Peking Ballet, and that's where he lived. He lived and learned, and he was a dancer and a singer and everything. Became an actor. They sent him to the United States to learn, and he went to like UC somewhere in California. He is phenomenal, and he only says like 3 words, and they're kind of grunty. I mean, his physical, he's so good, and his eyes, this is an Asian man,
right? Yeah.
And so they basically had to like build up his forehead, like his brow, to give him the prehistoric, I don't know what Homo
sapien look. Yeah,
something back in the day, whatever it was. And they kind of like tilted it back and specifically like created it so that they could see his eyes, and the emotion that this man put through that makeup. I mean, it was phenomenal. Timothy Hutton is fantastic. A lot of kind of behavior. It felt like Encino Man meets Meet Joe Young.
Why has this movie disappeared? I have not seen this play anywhere.
So good. It was and Lindsay Krause, she's better known as Maggie from The Initiative in Buffy.
Yes. Yeah, Buffy. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Danny Glover, the guy who played the principal in Back to the Future, the Top Gun.
The bald guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. Real quick on John Lone. He has one of those faces, and if you don't know his face, but of course he was in The Last Emperor, Year of the Dragon, The Shadow, Rush Hour. I remember him though from The Hunted.
Okay.
He was in The Hunted with Christophe Lambert from Highlander, and Lee and I did a podcast on our Highlander Bloody Kings podcast saying The Hunted would have made a really good Highlander sequel if they could have done.
Wow.
But so would you recommend this film then, Lacee?
I would absolutely recommend this. It does
Okay.
have some like 80s kind of techno babble where you kind of got to get over that because it's not,
Right.
science is not caught up with it. But he was so good. And then just the storyline and kind of the ending. And it was just very, very, I was very impressed. Also, the commentary is by the director. And there's a second commentary that I haven't seen, but the first commentary by the director was really good. It was very interesting. He talked about lots of the stunts and things like that. And
I found it streaming nowhere, so I gotta look into the physical copy. Okay. Kyle, did you have a quick thing you wanted to say?
Yeah, well, you talk about this movie kind of disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
I almost call it the Timothy Hudson effect because everybody acknowledges Timothy Hutton is a great actor, but name me 5 things he starred in.
You want me to?
We know you can, Lacee. We know you can, but in general, it's just like it's one of those things where, like, was he in Leverage? Was that one of the TV shows?
Leverage is probably the most recent thing I can think of him being in. But again, he's a great actor, but he not memorable.
It's hard to follow up an Academy Award at 22.
Yeah, he was too young to win that.
Or 19? I don't know. He was real young.
Yeah, he just hasn't found those rewatchable movies. So yeah, but let's get to the next one, guys. Next one is Suburbia,
and I'll leave it at that.
What's that, Lacee?
I said I take exception to that last statement, and I'll leave it at that.
What statement was that?
That he doesn't make rewatchable. There are several movies of his that I will rewatch. Just go ahead.
I get that, but for I think the common fandom and the reason why he's not as big as he should be, you're the exception.
Okay.
I think so, yeah. The next film is Suburbia, a film by Penelope Spheris. Suburbia is also known as Rebel Streets and the Wild Sides. In 1983, now, of course, released in 84 here, coming-of-age drama thriller written, of course, by Penelope and produced by Roger Corman. The film's plot concerns a group of suburban youth who run away from home and adopt a punk lifestyle by squatting in abandoned suburban tract homes. The punks are played by Chris Peterson, Bill Coyne, Timothy Eric O'Brien, and more famous Red Hot Chili Peppers bassist Flea and others. The film contains footage of D.I. Performing Richard Hung himself, TSOL performing Wash Away and Darker My Love, and the Vandals performing The Legend of Pat Brown. This film inspired the Pet Shop Boys song Suburbia. Guys, I remember watching this movie a few years ago, and it's basically a bunch of punk guys and girls that are homeless. They find solidarity among themselves, and they find these places to kind of squat and live in. Great soundtrack, famous probably for that, and of course with Flea being one of the characters in this, it's a little hard to watch at times. Lacee, you've seen it more recently. Give us your thoughts on it.
Well, I saw it last night, and I honestly, until I saw it last night, I didn't think I had seen it before. But then I watched the opening scene, which is of like a toddler getting mauled to death by a Doberman Pinscher, and I was like, I have seen this, and I'm not sure I liked it at the time, but I couldn't remember anything else about it. Basically, it's a Clockwork Orange from the 80s, and it's basically the same general thing. You got your droogs and your guys, and they go around doing stuff just because they can. But I will say, content wise or like acting wise, I think Flea is the best actor out of all of them. Every character in the film, every actor is very kind of overstated. The alcoholic mother who literally like starts way back here to backhand her son that's like halfway across the room. Everyone is hyper realized. The adults who were like against the punk rockers are very like, you can't make me do that. I mean, it's very I feel like somebody went out and said, I don't know any actors, but would you guys like to be in a movie with me? That's
pretty much, yeah. And Kyle, you have some trivia that I think kind of touches on something like that.
Yeah. The homes where the TR kids live were in real life condemned under eminent domain to make way for the Century Interstate 105 freeway, which wasn't finished for almost 15 years. The freeway they eventually built was featured in Speed in 1994 as the freeway under construction where the bus has to jump the unfinished chasm. Yeah. And Penelope Spheris cast real punk rockers instead of seasoned actors in the interest of realism.
I will say this. I tried to listen to the first commentary, which was by the director, and it was like I made it to the first like 10 minutes and everything was very much about how the trauma of her childhood and how like, you know, her people were alcoholics and things. And I was just like, wow, I can't. Like I'm sure it was very informative after the fact, but it was very depressing to start with. So I just didn't make it past.
Penelope is famous for a lot of the other movies she's done. And if you're a metalhead, The Decline of the Western Civilization or Punkhead and Part 2, she did these documentaries on the punk world and in the heavy metal world. She did a lot of heavy metal videos as well, like Megadeth. She directed Where the Boys Are, Hollywood Vice Squad. And probably more famous, she directed Wayne's World, the Beverly Hillbillies, Little Rascals,
it's
a bunch of
crazy that she directed the Little Rascals TV, like the movie from '94. That's not something that you would expect after watching this.
Kyle,
I have one quick question for you, Kevin. I come to you on this particular.
These are never quick questions, by the way.
I come to you on this particular subject because I know you're an expert on it. Well, he's immortal, isn't he?
Flea guy, I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah. The Boys Next Door, Dudes, and Wayne's World. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so yeah, it's basically it's a good film that targets a certain subgenre of fans and lifestyle, I should say too, because I knew people like these, you know, in high school. Yeah. And so, so it feels more like a documentary, to be completely honest with you, the way that it definitely feels that way.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we have a film that I was surprised by, and this is Swing Shift. Made a little over $6,700,000 in the theater. This, of course, stars Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. And the poster says, when America marched off to war, the women marched into the factory. From then on, nothing was the same. Swing Shift. A woman finds romance when she takes a job in an aircraft plant to help make ends meet after her husband goes off to war. Directed by Jonathan Demme. Of course, stars Goldie Hawn, Kurt Russell, Christine Lottie, Fred Ward, Ed Harris, and Holly Hunter. Kyle, give us some couple of quick trivia on this.
Okay. Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, you got nothing on this because the greatest Hollywood romance began on the set of this movie as Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell fell in love and moved in together after working on this project. And I'm sorry, it brought us Kate Hudson. So yes, it is the greatest Hollywood relationship ever. The role of Ethel the landlady is played by Goldie Hawn's mother, Laura Hawn. In an early scene, Ed Harris, clad only in a towel wrapped around his waist, plops down on a chair. For a split second, his genitalia are fully exposed. The scene somehow evaded the censors, and in a PG-rated film and in the first video release, the scene is intact. However, the scene has now disappeared from subsequent releases. However, it is included on the print shown on Turner Classic Movies.
I would have liked to have seen the exploded version, but it's exposed version. Yes. Ouch.
And just Kate Hudson was from her first marriage. Hudson.
Sorry?
Hudson there's a different. That's not.
But still, Kurt had a big influence on her, so we're
sure. I'm with you.
Different relationship.
Okay.
I did want to mention real quick that this movie became a case study in star producer director conflict over Swing Shift's 1984 objections. An additional 30 minutes worth of new scenes were written and shot to emphasize Goldie Hawn's on-screen love triangle. So and apparently there was a lot of conflict between her and Demme and producers and stuff like that. What now? what I love about this film, I found this film completely charming. I ended up watching it streaming on one of the streamers. I can't remember what it was. But you have a copy of this, right, Lacey?
Yes.
Is it DVD or Blu-ray? I want to take
DVD. It's not available on. Well, okay, I don't know that it's available on Blu-ray. I normally will buy the Blu-ray if there's a Blu-ray available.
Okay. Your thoughts on this film?
It was so sweet. I mean, Kurt Russell, look how cute he is in this look at that little pun.
He's very handsome in this film.
And
And he is one of the foremen or something that are running, helping to run the factory, the aircraft factory during World War II.
Yeah, and he's for us because he's not over in the war.
And Harris is the actual husband to Goldie Hawn, and he goes off to war. So she has this affair with Kurt Russell in the film because they fall in love working together, basically. So yeah.
But it was really good. It was very sweet. One of the I'm actually a fan of Holly Hunter in this movie.
Yeah.
She has a scene where where one of the military guys has to come and tell her that her husband has passed, was killed in action, and there's this one scene, and it's such a good breakdown, and the camera's just right there on her, and then the guy is standing, she's like hugging on the guy, and he's standing there, he's like, ma'am, I've never done this before. It was like his first time having to relay this information to someone.
I was impressed with Christine Lottie in this. She was because what's really cool about it is they all live in this really close knit like homes, and I've seen these a lot in Southern California where this takes place. And she's kind of known as like the floozy, but she's really like a nightclub singer. And then they end up becoming friends and bonding and stuff. And what I really liked about this film is it paid tribute to the women that were helping to build the aircraft for the servicemen. I just finished, of course, the very very well done Masters of the Air about the World War II bombers that changed the course of history by getting air superiority over the Nazis and the Axis allies that they had, and get to see like the Rosie the Riveter type of situation, and they pay a good tribute showing that side of the movie, which I thought was good. Kyle, have you seen this film?
I've seen it, but it's been forever. I'll be honest with you. This is one of the regrets of Taxi. Actually, it's something I'm going to try to go rewatch it, because if nothing else, this is a phenomenal cast as well.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
You are talking some Hollywood heavyweights in this film earlier on in their careers. But this is one of those films that's got it's got a place in Hollywood history. Let's be honest.
This movie surprised me. And I may end up picking it up on DVD and have it on physical media because I thought it was great. And you're right, Holly Hunter was great in this movie as well. Right, the next film, sorry, Lacey, you had a quick thing you want to say?
I was just going to say there was another. One of the other real life things is that they would make announcements from the news during things. And there's one announcement where a ship goes down or a flight goes down, or they sunk a ship, and there's this scene where this woman. Literally, the guy is over the microphone saying, we know you all have husbands and children and, sons and blah, blah, blah. And you see this woman just break down, and then she just like kind of gets back to it and starts riveting again. And it's like, that to me is.
And also, too, what's important is that this shows a little bit of history that you only see in newsreels, really. I've never seen a movie that covered this part of World War II, and I'm a big World War II movie fan. I love that, and so I thought that was really, really cool. Next we have is Razorback, a nitty little shocker, a true delight for any horror film fancier. A new breed of terror, Razorback. As a vicious wild boar terrorizes the Australian outback, the husband of one of the victims is joined by a hunter and a farmer in search for the beast. Directed by Russell McKay, famous for Highlander, and of course, lots and lots of 80s MTV videos, and of course, directed several of the Duran Duran videos, starring Gregory Harrison, Archie Whiteley, and Bill Kerr. Kyle, give us a couple trivia real quick.
After the release of the film, Russell McKay received a surprise phone call from none other than Steven Spielberg, who was curious how he achieved some of the effects in the dream sequence, such as the shot of the two moons. This coming from the mechanical animals, they're not cheap. A full-size, fully animatronic model Razorback was built at the cost of $250,000 and is only seen for a few minutes. Bruce the Shark, anybody? and I found this one interesting. According to the Resident Evil Extension 2007 audio commentary, Russell Mulcahy said that the producer of this film offered him the chance to direct it after seeing the Duran Duran music video "Hungry Like the Wolf," which he also directed.
Yeah. So I was curious for several reasons. This is the film that brought Russell Mulcahy to Highlander, and I don't know if you guys know this, but Highlander is a movie I like, kind of important to my life as well. It's the movie that allowed me to meet my wife, and my wife also being from Australia. I was interested in watching this, and I actually bought my copy from Australia. It's this Australian release here. And I got to say, it was entertaining. And the huge, gigantic boar in this was all practical effects, but it wasn't shown like it was more like you would see shadows or a shape of it first, and it was like killing farm animals, and it would kill people. And then there was like a couple of villain humans in this as well. And it was fascinating to see how the music and this creature that they built, and you really kind of get a payoff at the end before the creature's killed. You get a full-on front camera of the jowls and jaw of this creature, and with blood kind of coming down from it and stuff like this. And it's got a very cool stylistic approach to it, which is what I love about Russell Mulcahy, that he fine-tuned during his music video era. And then, of course, what we got through eventually, he goes on to do Highlander soon after this. Anyone else seen this?
No, but Russell Mulcahy also directed The Shadow, starring John Lone from Iceman. Just saying.
There you go. Yeah. But just warning, there is a dog that gets killed in this. So for you animal lovers out there, just keep that in mind as well.
Wait.
But
Did we just play 6 Degrees of Movie Foo?
We did a little bit, yes. But I do recommend Razorback. I thought it was cool. So real quickly, we got a few more here. We got Love Letters starring Jamie Lee Curtis. And I love the poster says, sometimes it's right to do the wrong thing. A story of love and obsession. A young radio personality who, after her mother dies, discovers she has been having a love affair for 15 years. Now she finds herself recreating her mother's romance by getting involved with a married man. And I thought this was interesting, guys, because she's reading these old love letters and finding out about, I think it was her grandmother having an affair through these love letters. And then she starts doing the same thing herself, but she becomes the other woman. And then she starts becoming obsessed with this too. Directed by Amy Holden Jones, co-starring Bonnie Bartlett, Matt Clark, and Amy Madigan. Kyle, give us some quick trivia on Love Letters.
This was a movie that two people desperately trying to break out of the horror genre united for. The writer and director Amy Holden had just done Slumber Party Massacre, and Jamie Lee Curtis agreed to do the film for only $25,000, despite it requiring several nude scenes, as she was also looking to break away from the typecasting of horror movies, which she had been mostly doing during this stage of her career.
I found this streaming, I think, on YouTube. It was somewhere free. I was able to watch it. She was good in this, and she becomes obsessed with the guy that she's having an affair with, where she kind of like stalks him, and then like the affair comes out, with the wife and all that kind of stuff. So there's some good dramatic moments. I thought this, at the time, I could see why she took this role, because it gave her a chance to kind of show a different side of her acting ability. Lacey, have you seen Love Letters?
I haven't, and now I want to. No, I haven't seen it. It sounds interesting though.
Yeah, it is. Kyle, did you ever see Love Letters?
I never did.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
And I love James Keach. So
what's that?
James Keach. He's also very, very talented. So Loved it.
I recommend it. You're cool. I love the old poster here. It's rated R. Jamie Lee Curtis and James Keach. All right, next I think is the final film on our list here. This is Playing with Fire. From his French maid, he got private lessons. Now his English professor is giving him a real education. Playboy sensation Sybil Danning, private lesson star Eric Brown. They're playing with fire. A buxom college professor seduces her student to make him the fall guy in her husband's inheritance scheme. But genuine romance and a mass killer complicate manners. I found this streaming for free, I think on YouTube or something. Maybe it was Tubi. Kyle, give us a quick little trivia on this one.
Sybil Danning, Sybil Danning, Sybil Danning, Sybil Danning. That's the only trivia you really need to know about this film. But no, actually, this is actually kind of interesting. Sybil Danning said Eric Brown was uncomfortable in the sex scenes. I don't know why. Maybe he was just in a very bad state of mind at the time in his life or something. But Mr. Brown, young little Mr. Brown, hated doing the sexy scenes. He did not want to do them. He felt totally uncomfortable doing them. He did not like doing them. And I think maybe because he was so against doing it that it came across as him being shy, maybe it worked. I'm just going to add something here. It's Sybil Danning. It might be just a little intimidating. I'm just saying.
What I forgot about, okay, I'd seen portions of this film. Just going to leave it at that. But I haven't watched it all the way through. And it actually caught me by surprise because I thought it was just one of your typical older lady, basically has an affair with a younger guy, which, of course, my tutor class, private lessons, In the Mood, all these films from the late 70s, early 80s, this was a trope. But no, it takes on a full, crime. I'm going to set up this little boy to take the fall situation. And it gets kind of nasty a little bit when it comes to that part of the story. Of course they have her like hanging out on the big yacht, the bikini and things lead to stuff and stuff starts, clothes start falling off her, of course. Sybil Danning, it's going to happen. Absolutely gorgeous in this film. But the turn that it took, it kind of caught me by surprise. So I just thought that was interesting. And in a way that kind of helps the film, Kyle.
And you think about it. I mean, obviously this is a trope that's been around for a while, but of all of these older women, younger men, the closest movie I can think of in a more modern time to this would be the Nicole Kidman film To Die For.
It's true. Yep.
I was just trying to say, what was the name of that one with Nicole Kidman with the blonde bob with Casey Affleck?
That was based on a true story too, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a different one. That's a different one. But To Die For had Joaquin Phoenix in it. It was actually kind of based off of Pamela Smart a little bit.
It wasn't both of them? It was Joaquin Phoenix and Casey Affleck, right?
No, it was just Joaquin Phoenix in To Die For. That Matt Dillon was in that one too.
All right. So guys, that wraps up our main movies that we are going to discuss. But I did mention we have a couple of movies on the cutting room floor. And I just want to mention this one because Lacee, you actually had the DVD. This is The Stone Boy. Before the sun rises, before the day begins, in a single moment, a family can be changed forever. Brief mention of this film and what you thought.
Great movie. Very dramatic. The kid is Jason Presson, who was the kid. He was the third kid in Explorers. With River Phoenix, Nathan Block.
The other kid. And by the way, this stars Robert Duvall, Jason Presson, as you mentioned, Glenn Close, and Frederick Forrest. Yes,
and also it was Dean Cain's first little tiny nugget. He is the. This is a story about a 10-year-old and his 17-year-old brother. They go out in the morning to shoot a duck and pick the peas and bring it back. It's like a farm thing, right? And the kid gets the gun stuck on a fence, and it shoots and kills Dean Cain's character in the first 3 minutes of the movie. So the concept of the Stone Boy is because he doesn't cry.
Gotcha.
There is a fantastic cameo, about 3.5-4 minutes. Linda Hamilton in one of her early films.
Wow. Well, real quick, did you like it?
I did. It's very sad, but it was very well told, and it kind of felt like, what's the one where Robert Duvall was so mean and Chris? Oh, I can't remember.
So yes, thumbs up.
Yeah, thumbs up. Yes. Also,
Gotcha.
Wilford Brimley is in it, and it was directed by Dean Cain's stepfather, Cain.
Wow. Look at that trivia. Look at that trivia knowledge. I love it.
Yeah.
Next, we have Murder Rock, the series of murders at a rock dance academy in New York, directed by famous horror director Lucio Fulci. And I couldn't find it to watch it. I just found snippets of it, but I did find a review of this film, a guy that was reviewing horror films, and he found a physical copy of it. He ordered it somewhere, and he didn't think it was a great film, but it's found a cult following. So I just want to mention that. And plus, it's got a great cover.
I was gonna say, they need to put a different color leotard on that woman.
I know, right?
I mean, this cover alone is a reason to watch the video of this podcast instead of listening to the audio.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap things up here. As for the top grossing movies of 1984, I've got a picture of them here. None of the ones that we discussed on this one made it, but we'll tease more later if that comes up there. Of course, this is part 4 of 84, the month of April. And yes, Kyle.
I had one question because I was tied up with real life. Unfortunately, Dalton kicked in. When you were talking about Double Trouble, did you happen to mention who the Segal sisters' other sister was?
Yes.
Yes, we did. We talked about Katie Segal. And I mentioned, too, that if you get a chance, go on YouTube. A guy made a collection of these that he recorded in one night, or maybe it was a girl. And you get to watch all the original commercials. And it was very cool. So make sure you check that out. All right, 1984, guys. This is the Fandom Podcast Network. And of course, what we like to also do is mention on Time Warp, we're going to tease next month. That is part 5. We're going to be discussing the movies in May of 1984. And the movies we're going to talk about are Alphabet City, The Bounty, Breakin', Hard Body, 16 Candles, Firestarter, The Natural, Finders Keepers, Making the Grade, Chattanooga Choo Choo, Indiana Jones, and the Temple of Doom, just to name a few. We'll be touching, of course, on some of the TV released during that time. But I did want to mention real quick, I have never seen The Natural all the way through, guys. And I'm going to, yes, exact Kyle. Kyle went back in his seat. He's like, what? I'm going to watch it all the way through, but something really funny is happening. It's starting to haunt me now. And I found this, I'm just going to tease this here. I found a Blu-ray copy of A League of Their Own and The Natural, and something very entertaining and funny happened when I picked this up, but I'm going to tease that and save that for the next podcast. So make sure check that out.
I will say I, too, have never seen The Natural, and out of everything you listed, I think that's the only one I don't own. So that will probably be my homework for the next 2 weeks until we get ready to film that.
I was going to warn you, when we record that next podcast, if I start having nosebleeds and you guys get funny feelings in your head, just you're forewarned.
Would that be the Firestarter?
Yeah.
Secretly one of my favorite all-time Drew Barrymore films.
All right. All right, guys, let's go ahead and close things out here. All right. Thank you guys for joining us here on the Fandom Podcast Network for Time Warp 1984 40th anniversary, discussing the movies of April. Kyle, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at AKyleW. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at AKyleFandom. And if you want to find me on Letterboxd, you can find me there under KSport16.
Lacey, where can we find you?
I am on X or whatever it is these days, and Letterboxd at Lacey Pants, and I am the Lacey Pants on Instagram.
Awesome. My name is Kevin. I am on X, Instagram, Threads, and Letterboxd at Spartan_Phoenix. Lacey, thank you as always for expressing and showing your movie foo and sharing your physical media. Kyle, thank you for joining us. I know you got your hands tied up there earlier, but thank you for jumping in. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, it's always fun to be on these time warps. I'm glad you guys have me, even with my busy schedule right now, because it's fun to go back into that hot tub time machine and explore all of these. But Kevin, you are on cleaning duty this time for the time machine.
All right. I just need to find some Chernobyl. Guys, thank you again so much for joining us here on the Fandom Podcast Network again for Time Warp. And we will see you next time.